The San Damiano Foundation is dedicated to putting the power of film at the service of the poor in the spirit of St. Francis of Assisi.
He left the world of power and prestige to explore the world of poverty and despair, hoping to make a change. Coming up, how the world turns for a former soap opera exec.
I just looked up and I said, who would watch this crap?
So Jerry turned his back on his life and went in search of something more meaningful.
I knew that the power of film, could be put to the service of the poor. I have filmed in the worst slums on earth, seeing people earning a living scavenging through the waste of others in massive garbage dumps, of encountering horribly disfigured lepers in the Amazon region of Brazil, spending months on the mean streets of Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles, walking the lonely migrant trail north from Central America in a journey that ends in a cruel death in the desert. For St. Francis, the Gospels were the only true guides for living at peace with others, including all of creation, and living in harmony with God. We make films that feature organizations and individuals that are helping the poor, and they use the films to raise money. And then I show the films at universities and churches in order to raise awareness about the plight of the poor and the need for Christians to do something to relieve the suffering. I learned how to finance my films at the St. Francis Inn. There's a friar there named Brother Xavier, and one day he was cooking lunch and a volunteer came in and said, "Brother Xavier, what are you making?" Xavier answered, "Potato soup." And the volunteer looked around and he didn't see any potatoes. So he said, "Brother Xavier, where are the potatoes?" And Brother Xavier answered, "We have no potatoes." "Then how are you making potato soup?" And Xavier said, "The Lord will supply." But there are people lining up to eat, and you're waiting for God to provide the potatoes? 5 minutes later, there was a knock on the side door, and it was an off-duty policeman who had been in the farmer's market. He saw 2 50-pound bags of potatoes, knew he was driving by the St. Francis Inn, said, "I'm going to bring these potatoes and drop them off." I make my films the way Brother Xavier makes potato soup, by trusting that God will supply what I need. I live as a beggar. I depend on people to give me the funds I need to make the films. Each movie is a step in faith. We have absolutely no funds in the bank. I begin a movie, and I just trust that what I need to finish the film will come, and inevitably it does. We find people who are living their faith and making a difference in the lives of the poor, and we make films for them. We take no money from them. Then I give them DVDs, really professionally produced DVDs, at exactly what it cost me to manufacture them. And I think the Spirit is calling all of us to put down this need for comfort, this need for security. Happiness isn't measured by how much you can acquire. I think it's how much you can let go of.
What was it like in the abandoned building last night?
It was filthy.
Rats.
Rats running all around all night trying to eat you, or they'll go in your mouth for heat.
You have actually heard about rats going in your mouth?
Yes. Well, this is where I sleep. This is where I stay at right now. And it's cold, no windows, no doors. If we can't find a bed at the shelter.
It's really incomprehensible to me that a human being would be spending a night in conditions like this. I'm just in a loss of words. I don't take photographs, I try to receive them. I try to enter into dialogue with the people I film. We have to show our love for God by how we treat the least of God's children, and that we have a responsibility to do something. We're all one family, and that when one of us is hurting, we're all hurting. But beyond that, what I found was just so many actual, real people where the bottom just fell out.
If it wasn't for St. Francis Inn, I wouldn't be eating.
How cold it is today?
7 degrees.
You began to see how many people are just a paycheck or two away from having nothing. I think it's immoral that, our lives are so centered on acquiring more things when quite clearly the gospel says a totally different message. It's about caring for each other. And the suffering is there not because of God. The suffering's there because of us. Our unwillingness to share. Christ isn't looking for us to give, our spare change. He wants us to give our very lives. When we hear the cries of the oppressed, the cries of the poor, we hear the voice of God. Where there is weakness, there is God. We need to ask God to shatter our complacency, to strip us of our need for comfort.
The San Damiano Foundation relies on tax-deductible gifts to produce our films. Please help us put the power of film at the service of the poor.